I actually have something to say. I think he raises a very good issue that's been kind of buried in the press coverage, that they did make these so-called secured creditors whole, the bank lenders. Of course, in the bankruptcy process, they're at the front of the line. They get payment first from the bankruptcy court in a bankruptcy, so they do have to be satisfied in some way in this bankruptcy. But it was surprising that they got, it looks like 100%. But there's an interesting irony, and I don't know if George had looked into this. The same auto task force that gave this group of lenders 100% gave them very little in the Chrysler bankruptcy. It was the same banks, J.P. Morgan, Goldman Sachs. They all took a big bath in the Chrysler bankruptcy. So I kind of wonder if there wasn't some kind of trade-off going on there, since it's the same banks and the same auto task force that made decisions on it, why they chose to hose them in the Chrysler bankruptcy but give them full payment in the GM bankruptcy. I guess we need to get Steve Ratner on the record on that one.
Well, maybe that's something good for you to do, George.
I have no knowledge of that. I would want to comment, though, on this point about, which I take it with all the rhetoric, has to do with the cutting off the post-retirement health benefits. We talked about the spleen being the auto workers, and by extension the salaried GM and just generally auto workers, salaried workers have had one of the richest health benefit plans ever. I mean, I've been through a lot of different jobs myself, and I will tell you that is by far the richest plan. What they're talking about now is that they used to have something called post-retirement health benefits, which meant when you retired that they picked up anything above Medicare. And that was an obligation that General Motors took on as part of originally the bargaining with the union, and they extended to their employees. I never had that. I'm officially, I guess, a retiree. I never planned to get it. I'm going to make do with Medicare, like everybody else. So the GM workers that lose post-retirement health benefits are no worse off than any of the retired people in the country. They have access to the same thing.
True. That's not true at all. In fact, they're being called. There's millions of phone calls being made right now to all sorts of GM retirees to go out and get their dental work and vision work done, because as of July 1st, those benefits have been cut off.
Right.
So it's not connected.
No one with Medicare gets that at all.
Connected to their retirement benefits right now, they're going to lose vision care and health care immediately.
Yeah, right.
Immediately.
Yeah, but none of the other retirees in the country, people over 65, have that.
Right. In the rest of the world, of course, you don't even have to work for anybody to get those things. But in the United States, you're right. It's a privilege to get your vision and dental care taken care of. That's why we have.
Elsewhere in the world, somebody has to pay for it. I mean, the money isn't, the health care isn't free. So somebody's paying for it, and what they're basically doing is paying for much higher taxes. Now, we maybe should do that. But the idea that somehow the people are going to be disadvantaged relative to other retirees is wrong.
Fred?
Yes.
Is President Obama going to get away with this? What is the recourse of the unions?
Well, I know that, I hope he doesn't. I think that this is an opportunity. This is a window here. We do now, in fact, as this bankruptcy proceeds, the people of the United States, through the United States government, will actually own General Motors. Certainly we will be the largest shareholder. I think this is an opportunity for people to make their voices heard and say, we don't want the bankruptcy plan that's been put forward. We want to keep the factories open and do the conversion. Convert these factories to make the things that we need. This has been offered even by someone as conservative as Robert Wright, former Secretary of Labor under Bill Clinton. He said on the program Marketplace on NPR, wouldn't it be better to use the money to convert General Motors and other declining manufacturing companies into producing what America needs, such as light rail systems and so on, train laid-off auto workers for the new jobs of the future? That's what needs to happen, and now we can press those demands. I don't think this is a done deal at all. I think the people have yet to speak, and I think that's what needs to happen next.
I mean, Bob Reich is the farthest from a conservative, but I agree. I mean, we are paying a very large amount of money for each job that is in fact saved. The argument that he was making was that we're going to take that money and done more with it. Now, the political decision was that they were going to protect some GM jobs, and that's a political decision. It may not be a good one.
Well, Michael Moore, in his piece, Goodbye General Motors, does make a recommendation in which all the American people can win. And so we've got a quote from him as we begin to wind down our show.
There's no way that all people can win in this one.
Well, let's just hear what Michael has to say. He writes, President Obama needs to convert the factories to new and needed uses immediately. Don't put another $30 billion into the coffers of GM to build cars. Instead, use that money to keep the current workforce employed so that they can build the new modes of 21st century transportation. Let them start the conversion work now. So
what would they convert to right now? What could they do? I mean, $30 billion would go real fast if you take GM's labor costs. So after 6 months, after it's all run out, what would they then be doing?
Well, of course, in the article, Michael Moore is talking about mass transit, and that's what Diane Feely, our first guest, talked about.
You couldn't employ a tenth of the GM workers in building mass transit.
Okay, well then,
you couldn't,
it appears that we've got to ponder the imponderables, and so the question...
It's very easy to make claims like that without any facts. And I will say a lot of people are making a lot of claims.
That's what's happening on the other side. You're saying this can't happen. What could happen in 6 months? When the United States went into World War II, they converted every factory in this country to making military equipment. They went from making frames at my plant to making tanks.
Are you proposing that we start building tanks and guns and airplanes?
It's a question of political will. It's got nothing to do with anything else but political will. What do we want to do to this country? I think what they're doing right now is giving money to the banks and sort of trying to keep people quiet by doing this bankruptcy and saving a few jobs. But if the political will were there and people with political courage were in office, we could transform this country.
Fred, I'm going to have to let you have the last word on this edition of American Dream. I want to thank you for joining us from Michigan. Thank you, Patrice. Thank you, George. And thank you all. Please be sure to tune in next week for American Dream.